Welcome to The Problematic Gaze with me, Dr. Lee Arnott.
And me, Dave Moor.
It's a very special episode for us today, isn't
Hence
it, Dave?
the bubbles.
Hence the bubbles, because, dear listeners, we might be being joined by dear viewers because we are going live on not live. Because we are going onto YouTube, everybody. Yes, this is being filmed. So, as is our wont, we thought this deserved a little bit of a marking of an occasion as we step into the visual medium, isn't it? Right, David?
Absolutely. Say we're going live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Who can say the amount of time it's taken us to actually set this setup up? But fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
We're dipping our toe into the YouTube pond. So welcome, YouTube viewers.
Welcome, viewers.
And hello, gazers.
And hello, gazers, one
on
and all.
The podcast world,
yes,
who are
yes,
listening
yes.
to us faithfully as they have done for the last year.
Indeed. And if you don't know who we are, then we are The Problematic Gaze, and each episode... hello.
Often interrupted by some bubbles.
Thank you. Yes, we're The Problematic Gaze, and each episode we take a piece of pop culture from the last 60 odd years and examine it through the problematic lens, asking ourselves the question, could you get away with it today? And if not, why not? And what that says about society and culture then and now. And that looks nice.
Yeah, I'll try and speak and pour at the same time.
Multitasking, it always goes well.
Yeah, because before we take a deep dive into our chosen topic, we'll look at the news events of the day, and we'll look at the TV and film landscape, and we'll also look at the pop charts just to put our chosen topic and the year into focus.
Yes, very good. And with that... Cheers, darling.
Cheers.
Oh, that was a clunk, wasn't it?
Come on, let's do it.
Do it properly.
For our new YouTubers.
Lovely.
There we go.
Cheers.
So we are doing this as live. We haven't exactly got huge amounts of audience members watching us, but apart from our YouTubers at home. So don't fuck it up, basically.
All right.
Because I'm not cutting into this.
Yeah. See what I have to put up with. Anyway, what are we looking at today, Dave?
We've got the champagne coupes out in special memory of Sex and the City. Carrie, Miranda, Charlotte and Samantha.
Yes.
We salute you.
We salute you.
We're going to look at an episode from the year 2000, Series 1, Episode 3, entitled Where There's Smoke.
I thought it was Series 3, Episode 1.
What did I say?
Series 1, Episode 3. Then you had one sip of that bubbles.
What he said.
Yes, this is Series 3, Episode 1, called Where There's Smoke. What's your relationship with Sex and the City, Dave?
I watched it at the time, and whenever it's on, I'll watch it again. Hugely problematic in areas, but do you know what? I don't care. I love it. I've followed these women. Let's not talk about the debacle, which is And Just Like That, which is the modern series.
I will ask you about that
which
afterwards.
I do watch under duress, but we'll discuss that a bit later. But late 90s, early 2000s, I was there for the girls, giving it some jip, watching them navigate their way through the emotional and physical quagmire of turn of the millennium New York.
Yeah.
How about you?
I loved it at the time. I lived with a girl who was a features writer for a fashion magazine. Almost felt like I was in Sex and the City by proxy. And we lived in a really nice flat, which I thought was like a New York loft apartment in Archway. So, not that much.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it?
Yeah, right by a bus stop. It was a nightmare. Anyway, loved it. Absolutely loved it at the time. Thought it was great. Was a bit resistant to it at first for whatever reason, but ended up loving it.
Yeah.
Although remember feeling deeply betrayed by the way it ended.
Right.
Yeah, which we can get into.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's the 6 seasons, then there's the film.
Yes.
The two films.
I never saw any of the films.
Didn't you?
No.
Probably for the best. The second one, at least.
There was just a sound of a dead horse being mercilessly whipped by that
And
point.
by that point, darling, you were already living the life. You didn't need to watch it.
That's exactly it. Exactly right. My friend, her sister, had said to her once... Your problem is you think you're living Sex in the City, but I'm actually living the dream at this. And she was just like, oh, fuck off. 3 years between them or something. So anyway, that's our relationship to this particular show. With all that being said, should we cross over to the news desk now? This is a bit weird, isn't it? Because usually on our podcast, our listeners can't see the fact that we don't move at all. Spoiler alert, everybody. We don't actually get up and cross cross over to a
Should we
news
just do it
desk.
anyway?
Should we just pretend?
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
pretend.
Crossing over to the news desk.
Crossing over to the news desk. I can't.
Out of shot. Out of shot.
Right.
Good.
Good.
So here we are at the news desk.
Here we are at the news desk.
Okay. Trevor McDonald specs on.
Get the Trevors on. So this is events, some of the UK events of the year 2000. Now, we already covered some of these events, not these ones, but we already covered the year 2000 in our episode on the royal family, just about 3 months ago. But here are some more which were taxing the UK at the time. On the 12th of January, it's announced that the former Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet is to be deported after Home Secretary Jack Straw accepts unequivocal and unanimous medical evidence that he's unfit to stand trial in Spain on charges of torture. On the 2nd of February, he's going to be deported to his native Chile, where he'll face trial for human rights violations. This was a bit of a brouhaha at the time, do you remember?
Roughly. Wasn't he good mates with Margaret Thatcher?
He was good mates with Margaret Thatcher, and he was a bit of a bad egg, let's just say. He's your classic South American dictator. Military coup, I think, in the early 70s, institutes a reign of terror, anybody left, communist, socialist, thousands of people killed, tens of thousands of people tortured under his regime, tens of thousands of people sent to concentration camp, people disappeared from the streets of Chile. Thatcher was a fan, is on record as saying that she thought that the way he dealt with communism should be applauded. One of the first acts the Tory government does is to lift a ban on arms sales to Chile, which the Labour government had brought in, and she overturns it in 1980. And he's come to the UK because he's not very well. He's come for medical treatment. And while here, he's arrested by Spanish authorities. Thatcher visits him, I think, sends him a bottle of malt whiskey, and he becomes a bit of a hot potato at the time. But eventually he's deported back to Chile. But yeah, not a very nice
Not a very nice person, but
No.
also the whole Chilean thing and him coming to power it was one of those satellite proxy wars as part of the bigger Cold War framework,
Well,
wasn't
all
it?
funded by America, who favoured it happening in that particular part of South America. It was their advantage. So
all roads lead back to the US and Russia and the Cold War at this point.
Dirty hands in pies, love.
Absolutely. Okay, in local news, on the 28th of January, the Liberal Democrat MP for Cheltenham, Nigel Jones, is attacked at his constituency surgery by a mentally disturbed man with a samurai sword. Andrew Pennington, a councillor, comes to Jones' defence but is stabbed 9 times and later dies aged 39.
Gosh, that's terrible, isn't it?
Well, MP's in danger. It's getting worse, isn't it?
We're still blessed in this country in that we have had relatively few deaths of MPs at the hand of constituents. Only 2, and obviously this attack didn't succeed in killing the MP, but unfortunately killed the councillor. But yeah, it's a horrible thing. And in democracy, you're supposed to be able to exert your right. And if you're voted and if it's your MP, then, I mean, unfortunately, this is a mentally disturbed man as well. But the ones we've seen more recently have tended to be based on ideological reasons, haven't they? The assassinations. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's one in America. I mean, these 2 news events do seem to be slightly history repeating itself. The rise of a dictator could be mirrored to what's happening in the US at the moment.
Yeah.
And also, just in the US, some Democrat was killed, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. By another ideologically crazy bloke who thinks he's doing the right thing. Oh, dear. More grim news on the 25th of February. The murder of 8-year-old Victoria Climbier in London after torture and neglect by her guardians, who her aunt and her aunt's partner. Local authority social services departments will be severely criticised for their shortcomings in the case. Do you remember the picture of that beautiful girl? Oh,
So
it's
sad.
heartbreaking.
So sad. It's just people slipping through the net.
Yeah, gosh.
Kiddies.
Yeah.
Oh dear. To our new YouTube listeners, we're not all doom and gloom in this podcast.
God, yeah, what bloody hell.
Murder, dictatorship.
Do you know that Sex and the City is big on Instagram these days with all these young women? They're going to click on this and go, what the fuck is this? Can we talk about Carrie and the girls?
We're just setting the scene for what was going on in the year 2000,
Yeah.
which was when our episode of Sex and the City was.
So we've got the hard-hitting news stories, such as...
On the 1st of March, all stores of furniture retailer World of Leather close. Ooh, that's your weekend sadly diminished,
I
isn't
was
it?
devastated, David. It's something I've not got over, let me tell you. Their wipe-down collection was second to none.
It's the pleather now.
Pleather look. Yeah, absolutely. Pleather's mentioned in this episode. Did you hear it?
I was too busy looking at Firemen, to be honest.
Well, it was actually that scene, so I'll come back to that. On the 1st of April, an Enigma machine is stolen from Bletchley Park Museum. Now, I thought the Enigma machine was that massive thing that covered the whole wall, but...
No,
Oh.
no, it's
It was like a typewriter.
portable, could be used on submarines and all that kind of shit. There's one still there, I think, and then there's one in the Imperial War Museum as well.
Is there?
It is right up my strata. I love World War II history and Cold War history. Have you ever been to Bletchley Park?
No.
It's great.
I know.
It's just up the road from PG Manor.
Is it really?
Yeah.
We need a school trip.
Absolutely.
A school trip and do some pictures for our socials.
Absolutely. When you're there, you can just picture the scene in World War II, all the ladies and gents who worked there, and you can see all the rooms where they intercepted all the German communications, right down to the car garage where they would come in and out of and stuff. It sounds a little bit dull, but it isn't. It's really...
Yeah, take me to Bletchley Park to look at
the link below to visit Bletchley Park.
The garage of Bletchley Park. Crashing on.
Must try harder. Go on. Just back to some doom and gloom, please. That was too light. On the 19th of April, Tony Martin is sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of a 16-year-old burglar, Fred Barras, who he shot dead at his Norfolk farmhouse 8 months ago.
This was another bit of a cause célèbre, wasn't it? There was a lot of talk about how you can't defend yourself in your own home, wasn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It put the questions in everyone's minds who was watching the news.
Yeah.
What side were you on?
Yes.
And what would you do? How far would you go to defend your home? There's a bloody burglar running around downstairs. He could have a machete, could have anything. Yeah. This guy's got up and shot him.
Yeah, he was 16, bless him. And
I know.
I've got a friend who used to teach pottery in prisons, and she taught Tony Martin, and she said he was a right miserable, horrible bastard. So unpleasant. She dreaded going in to teach him. No remorse at all.
He probably thought he'd not done anything wrong, but he had shot someone dead.
He had shot someone dead.
Yeah.
On the 12th of May, Ford announces that production of cars at the Dagenham plant will end when the Fiesta launches a new generation in 2002. Now, the Dagenham plants, that's iconic, isn't it? That's been since the 60s, 50s or 60s, since the plant's Dagenham's been there.
Fact-checking department.
Note to fact-checking department, please. And of course, that's where the famous strike is by the female workers in the 60s. So this is the end of an era that this is going to close. And the last car they produce is the Fiesta. I mean, the little I know of cars, I do know that the Fiesta is a little bit shit, isn't it?
I had a Fiesta.
But... Okay,
You see what I have to put up with?
It's a doable workaround, but it's not. It's just it's just a...
That brings the first episode of our YouTube series to a close, dear listeners.
Do you want to do the next one?
Yes, that's all right, thank you.
You don't even care. As long as it's got wheels and goes. You only care.
As long as it's got wheels and goes, it's fine. That's all I need from a car.
Exactly.
My husband, on the other hand, is a classic car collector.
Yeah, I know.
So he's a real petrol head and he knows every single thing about cars. And when he's talking about a car, I say, is that the blue one or the red one?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
We fail at being men.
Yes.
We do.
Which one have you just done?
I've just done about cars. You're doing Barbara Cartland now, honestly.
Oh, yes. Okay. On the 21st of May, best-selling author Dame Barbara Cartland dies aged 98 at her home. Dies aged 98 at her... Oh, my God, I can't speak. Hang on, I need to lubricate myself.
She dies at her home, basically. That's quite tricky to say, though.
What he said. Near Hatfield, Hertfordshire. Again, very
Just
close
up the
to
road.
PG Manor. Now, hopefully I'm not triangulating our exact location.
There'll be some stalkers out there before long, before you know it.
That's YouTube for you anyway. And then, on the same day, Sir John Gielgud dies, aged 94. Dear Johnny. Do you remember that from Spitting Image?
Yeah.
At his home at Wootton Underwood. It's quite a cool name, isn't it? Wootton Underwood. In Buckinghamshire. So, yes, two giants.
Two titans, yeah. Gosh. Of course, John Gielgud was the reason why Sylvia Sims agreed to do the part in Victim, which is one of our early episodes, the 1960 film about homosexuality, because of the dreadful experience John Gielgud had at the hands of the police in the late 50s when he'd been arrested in a cottage and just so horribly treated. And she was a good friend of his, and that's why she took that role on, because she was so affected by what he told her about what had happened to him at the hands of the coppers for being gay.
Dear.
Speaking of all things gay, did we ever let it go? Can you not just let it go, please? God, it's so gay.
You might have noticed.
Yeah.
5 minutes in.
Yeah. The 21st of June, it's the repeal in Scotland of the controversial Section 28 of the Local Government Act 1988, which had prevented local authorities from, quote, promoting homosexuality, which basically means talking or addressing anything to do with LGBTQ plus stuff when we were at school. Not allowed to do it at all. If you're getting bullied at school in front of a teacher, they're not allowed to say anything. What a bunch of fucking bastards. It will be repealed in the rest of the UK in 2003.
I mean, it surprises me that it took so long to repeal it.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Tony Blair's government comes in 1997 and it's still going to take him 5 years to repeal it as well. So, good God.
There you go. Staying on an LGBT theme, but in a really sad way. Again, we've gone down a little bit. On the 30th of June, David Copeland is found guilty of causing 3 nail bomb attacks in London from last year. He's sentenced to life imprisonment, and the trial judge recommends that he should serve at least 30 years before being considered for parole, meaning that he's likely to remain in prison until at least 2029 and at the age of 54. So this was the guy who set nail bombs off in Brick Lane, Brixton, and on Old Compton Street.
Yes.
In Soho.
Yeah. Aiming at the black people, brown people and gay people, basically. Yeah. I wonder if he's still in prison.
Yeah.
Fact check department.
Fact checked.
On the 16th of October, the BBC's main evening news programme moves to 10 p.m. from its traditional, very traditional 9 o'clock snot, from its very traditional 9 o'clock slot. Early the following year, ITV will move its news programme back to its same time slot and broadcast in direct competition. I can't quite get my head around the fact that the BBC stopped. Windy Pops have started.
I can't wind you from here.
Yeah, called the Windy Pops. I'm so sorry, everybody. BBC stopped television at 9 o'clock to show the news. It just seems unfathomable these days, doesn't it? Because it's on at 10. 10 just seems... And ITV's news is always news at 10.
Yeah.
Bong. But BBC's with Trevor McDonald. Yeah, I remember this was quite a big thing, actually. But BBC realising 9 o'clock audience doesn't want to watch news. They want to watch...
Dempsey and Makepeace. Really tell our era, can't you?
Yes, it's 2000, for God's sake.
It's only because we watched an episode of Dempsey and Makepeace, didn't we?
The last time I was here.
Yeah. And
I was so disappointed with it.
No, we didn't really pick a good one, did we?
No, we should have picked the one with Susie Quattro. I told you.
Well, you kept telling me, but then I was just like, no, I want to watch this one. And it didn't go down very well.
No, it didn't. Cold sick. Your turn.
Okay, let me focus. On the 30th of October, Sven Goran Eriksson, of 52. He was only 52 at the time. He looked
That's my age. Yeah. I'm not being funny, but I look a lot better than Sven Goran Eriksson, don't I?
Sorry, it's the bubbles. Okay, so on the 30th
Sorry. It's also really weird because usually we're sitting next to each other.
I know.
And now we're sitting facing each other.
I know, it's quite unnerving.
I quite like it, actually. It means I can give you dirty looks when you're saying something stupid.
Which is most of the time. Can I finish my Sven Goran Eriksson point?
You may.
On the 30th of October, Sven Goran Eriksson, the 52-year-old Swedish coach of Italian side Lazio, accepts an offer from the Football Association to take charge... Oh, God, this champagne's going down really well.
Go on, have another sip, love.
I will. To take charge of the England football team for 5 years, commencing next July. Eriksson will be the first foreign manager...
Clutch your
pearls, everyone.
Oh my God.
Oh no, they're letting the foreigners in now to do the football. To take charge of the England national team.
Did you get a little thrill to yourself when you said Lazio because you were just you were talking about football?
That's what they do, isn't it? Go Lazio.
There we go. Some events of 2000.
Yes. We're not anti-foreigner, are we? We just take the piss out of anti-foreigners.
Oh, God,
just for our YouTube listeners.
Yeah, hopefully that's clear.
Yeah.
And just where were you in 2000, by the way? Where were you? What were you doing? I was in Archway, obviously.
You're in Archway. I was
apartment.
up north. I was still the little gay boy who hadn't quite made it into the big city. Hence why Sex and the City was such a little escape for me. It's like, one day I shall be like Charlotte from Sex and the City.
Clearly we're going to ask at the end, which one would you be? I think we know who I'll be. I was actually working in fashion as well at this point, so along with my flatmate. Cheeky bastard. Not far though, but as a women's wear. And so living with my flatmate, who was features writer for a fashion magazine, it felt very Sex and the City.
Did we eat different restaurant every evening? Different cocktail bar?
What I did was I'd have a different kebab from the kebab shop. Just to kind of...
Different flavour.
Make me feel special.
No garlic sauce tonight.
Do you know what? I'm going to try some like aioli, Marco. It's what?
Very
garlic and mayonnaise. It sounds disgusting, but try it. It's Tuesday. So in this part of our show, new viewers and new listeners, we will just tell you what was on telly at the time, just to give a bit of context for where this episode of Sex and the City landed in. Now, we already have looked at TV in our episode on the royal family, so we thought we'd have a look at what was going on BBC Two and Channel 4, the minority channels in 2000, because there's quite a lot of good stuff. Naked Chef is high in BBC Two's charts. Obviously, Jamie Oliver is becoming a real thing at this point. Did you ever fancy Jamie Oliver? No, I didn't either.
No, he annoyed me.
Yeah, he did. But what's interesting is Mockney accent. At this point, it's when you're starting to get celebrities who are normal. The story in the late 90s and early noughties, think of Big Brother, is that people like us becoming famous. Yeah. The exemplar of which is David Beckham, but certainly Jamie Oliver, who was, again, not posh. I don't know how posh he secretly is, but that was a stick, wasn't it, for him?
TV made for the masses rather than the middle classes.
Yes, exactly, with appropriate presenters. Ben Fogle at this point couldn't get work because he was too posh, apparently.
Really?
So the media was really changing towards working class accents, which always historically used to be like a big no to getting any work in television at all.
Yeah.
I'm also quite struck that Buffy the Vampire Slayer was getting over 3.5 million viewers, and that's how I loved Buffy. I was a huge Buffy fan. But this is on TV. Coupling is riding Stephen Moffat's sitcom about relationships, a big hit on BBC Two. There is The Simpsons, Star Trek Voyager, quite a lot of Star Trek spin-offs actually. Deep Space Nine, Ready Steady Cook is a big thing.
That was a staple of our student days, wasn't
Absolutely.
it? Yeah, because that basically was
God.
our life.
Yeah, it was. You'd have a pepper,
Yeah.
an old manky bit of something in the fridge, and maybe a bottle of tomato ketchup. What can you make with it, Ainsley? I made a Black Forest Gatto.
It really was. That was when kind of food was a bit simpler, wasn't it? It's all got quite sophisticated now.
It was becoming sophisticated at this point, actually. Like getting more... If you think the first kind of gastropub opens in about 97, so our palates as a country are noticeably improving at this point. They've definitely improved from when I think it was Jacques Chirac, the French president in the 1970s, says, oh my God, Britain have the worst diet, the worst food,
Really?
which was not entirely inaccurate, unfortunately. I told you about my great-grandmother who literally boiled every single vegetable to death.
Oh my God.
To death.
What is it about
don't
grandmas?
know.
And they do that, don't they? Because they start cooking at about 9 a.m. So by the time you get up for lunch at 12, 1 o'clock, it's like mush.
Mush. Tasteless mush.
But mind you, my grandma was a really good cook.
Mine wasn't
God bless
at all.
your grandma.
Mine was
yeah,
not.
you could smell, if you went out for Sunday lunch, you'd been out to kick the shit out of Saturday night.
Yes.
You were absolutely starving. You could smell her gravy.
Wow.
That sounds really wrong.
Smelling that as gravy.
You could smell my grand's gravy all the way down the street.
Like a Bisto kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky you, that's all
that
I
took a
can
turn.
say. But what was on Channel 4? What were some highlights on 4?
Well, obviously, it's dominated by Brookside. That was
Yes.
quite high at the time. And Hollyoaks had just started, so
Right,
that was
yeah.
there. But there were other things. Frasier was riding high. Did you ever watch Frasier? Were you
No.
ever a fan?
No.
That was a little bit too cerebral for me.
Me too.
He was a little bit too sure of himself, wasn't he?
With good reason. He's a very high successful psychiatrist, isn't he?
Yeah, Friends, obviously, riding high as well. We've done an episode on Friends, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
YouTubers, if
Yes,
you
we
ever want
have.
to look back. At
If you ever
those.
want to go away from the visual medium into the world of sound.
Yes, it's all on YouTube as well. Anyway, but our gazers will have listened to that already.
Obviously.
Yes, we shouldn't forget our faithful gazers. Hi, Jeannie Nunu. Hi, Ruthie.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle wants to be known as our superfan extraordinaire. So I said we would call her that. Michelle,
yes.
I know you're going to be listening to this right now and squealing with excitement. Superfan extraordinaire, darling.
Michelle, I hope you got the bubbles.
Yeah. Chin.
Okay, ER. That's not a northern phrase.
ER.
ER. It is actually ER, which means
ER.
here, have
Here you are.
it.
Here you are.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about ER, emergency room
Never
from
watched
the US.
it. Never watched it.
Dishy Dr. Doug. Ross. That's just
George
come from the
Clooney?
corner of my brain. Yeah, George Clooney.
And who
yeah.
was the one from Top Gun in it? He was in it as well, wasn't he?
Anthony
Nelson?
Edwards. That's probably wrong.
Anyway,
fact check.
Fact check department.
I'm sure our YouTubers will tell us. Okay, so countdown.
Obviously.
Yeah, did I tell you my countdown story?
Yes. You told our listeners as well, and our viewers, if you want to hear that, go back to our episode on whatever.
It involved Richard Whiteley, a certain amount of cannabis.
Richard Whiteley was not imbibing the cannabis, by the way, just to clarify.
Yeah, and Sonny and Cher.
And your aunt...
My aunt,
Was it a
yes.
tie or a card or something your aunt had made?
Yeah, but you said that I've already said it, so I'm not going to say it again.
Either way, the upshot is a stoned David disgraced himself in front of Richard Whiteley at a recording of Countdown that he was an audience member of.
I don't do that kind of thing anymore, just in case my employees are watching. I don't.
No, I know you don't. No, I know you don't. Backpedaling from P45 on the way. Taxi for David. Interesting, the bottom of that chart, Ally McBeal is 30 most popular. And just thinking about the landscape of representations of women in TV at the time, obviously we have Sex and the City, and I suppose you could argue that its natural bedfellow would be Ally McBeal, which is another, but we will compare and contrast, I'm sure, along with Bridget Jones, who we've also discussed.
Yeah.
But she's in this milieu of women in the year 2000. So,
did you see in the Daily Mail sidebar of shame?
I haven't looked at the Daily Mail for 3 years, and it has been the most blessed thing in my entire life.
It was basically, guess what Ally McBeal, Callista Flockhart looks like now?
Oh, let me guess. She's aged 25 years because it's been 25 years. So is that what it is?
Yeah.
Basically, Ally McBeal's got
But
older.
always on a negative slant, like,
Clearly.
look what she looks like now.
Just let herself go, wasn't it? She used to be so beautiful. Is that what they whisper to you when you leave the pub, Tom?
I am still beautiful.
I am beautiful, am I not? Anyway, that was some of the TV on the minority channels. We were going to look at Channel 5, but none of it. Don't remember anything. Should we cut over to the pop charts to see what the top 20 was on the week this episode was broadcast? So this is the official singles chart on the 4th of June 2000. Confidence levels in knowledge of this, David?
Yeah, I think I still had an eye on the charts at this point.
I think I did, for sure.
Yeah.
But my tastes were very much more clubby, were dancey. That was going to float my boat, because this was the peak of my fashion / drug years. So
this was your Sex and the City years, wasn't it? When
yeah.
you were in a different nightclub every night, different restaurant, different man every night.
Well, yes.
Just cut to the third one. Okay, without further ado, let's go to the singles charts. Okay,
Right.
Number 20, Heart of Asia by Watergate.
Never heard of it.
You've probably been held up in a club to that at some point.
Have I? Oh, but maybe I don't know. Number 19, Thong Song by Cisco. Of course, I remember that one. Yeah.
A flying ear, trying to get in on the action.
Yeah.
Hope you can't hear it, dear viewers / listeners. Yeah. Okay, this has taken me aback, actually. Number 18, Taken for Granted by Sia. Now, Sia.
Is still around, isn't she?
She's still around, yeah. But I thought she was a lot more recent than that. But obviously she was knocking around in the year 2000.
Is she the one who represented us at Eurovision one year?
Sia, didn't she sing Titanium and all that shit?
Fact check. Number 17, We're Really Saying Something.
Bananarama?
No, unfortunately not. Buffalo G.
Buffalo G. Okay, number 16, Master Blaster 2000, DJ Luck and MC Neat. So now I've heard of them too.
Have you? Master Blaster was my Grindr profile name for Goblin.
I was too slow then. I was trying to think of something to say.
As was The Bad Touch at number 15 by Bloodhound Gang. This is a bit rubbish, isn't it?
Saying that, we'll probably be bopping to a few of these. Number 14, Sex Bomb, Tom Jones and Moose T.
I was definitely bopping to that. Black Cap on a Tuesday night.
I could just imagine you on the dance floor, just eyeing up some prey there, going, Sex Bomb.
All of that, you know. But it was Tuesday night, so they invariably had no teeth and probably a tracksuit. So, you know, you got what you could get.
Exactly.
Number 13, You're My Angel by Mikey Graham. Of course, he's from Westlife. Boyzone. They're just interchangeable. They are
Did you see the Boyzone?
I finally watched it. New listeners / viewers, David has been hassling me about this documentary for nearly a year. I finally watched it. It was good. It was good. What a bloody nightmare they had, though, wasn't it? It just got treated like shit. But was it ever thus with the story of pop stars?
It was right back then in the 60s with the little boy bands.
Absolutely.
But this Mikey Graham, he was the one who was a little bit removed from everybody else.
Had talent.
Had talent. Not sectioned himself. Sorry, Mikey. Hadn't sectioned himself. He'd removed himself from the spotlight.
This song is actually part of his therapy he had when he was sectioned. Was that? Anyway, carry on. Number 12, Hands Up, Trevor and Simon.
I only know Swingy Pants.
I wonder if that's hands up, give me your heart, gimme, as in that hands up. Anyway, okay. We'll never know.
Or Hands Up from your Tuesday nights at the Black Cap.
Is that what they sang?
Sorry, that was Fists Up, sorry.
That wasn't Tuesday night, that was Wednesday.
Okay, number 11. Oh, someone very current. Someone very close to your heart as well. Day and Night by Billie Piper.
New Doctor Who.
Is she though?
Or is she?
Is she?
Know.
What's your theory?
I don't think she is. But Billie Piper, in her former career as a pop star, never really wanted to do it.
She's done it all.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Number 10, this is a corker. Don't Call Me Baby, Madison Avenue.
I love the fact that whenever that comes on the radio, I can sing all the lyrics to that song.
Me too. And I was dating I don't want to sound like a twat, but I was dating a Macedonian model at this point. And he was really arrogant. The kind of guy, if you went for a meal, he would ensure that he was sitting facing the mirror so he could spend the whole meal just look at himself past your shoulder. And anyway, we were in a club and this song came on and he's wrapping his arms around me. I was just like, don't call me, baby. His face. I had enough of it. This song broke me. The straw, the camel, everything splattered on the floor at that point.
Dear. Okay, moving swiftly on. Number 9. Oops, I Did It Again, Britney Spears.
Great song again.
Great song again. I love a bit of old Britney, but I have to say, hands up, I am guilty.
Like Trevor and Simon, hands up.
Yeah, fists up.
Fists up.
And I feel really bad about this, but when she went through her mental breakdown and she smashed car windows with umbrellas and shaved her head and everything, I was thinking about this recently. The tabloids just absolutely went for it.
Oh, God, yeah, totally.
This poor young girl having this mental breakdown for whatever reason. No one wants to see that in anybody. But I was fascinated. I was glued to it.
Everyone was.
I'd like to think now I've changed and I would just be like, just leave the poor girl alone.
Yes.
But at the time, that was the mentality, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone likes watching a car crash, don't they?
Yeah. And also, by 2000, we've got OK Magazine, Heat Magazine, just adding to this splurge of printing this kind of story. So, we all saw Britney's and we all gloated about it a bit as we did. But you're right. Our attitude towards mental illness has completely changed. But I still think that the Daily Mail would be all over it today. And people who read the Daily Mail.
They don't give a shit about Meghan Markle's mental health, do
No,
they?
do they bollocks? Of course they don't.
Okay, number 8, It's My Life, Bon Jovi.
No, that's not the tampon advert, It's My Life, is it?
No, that's Dr. Albert. Yeah, I'm sure that's a banger for Bon Jovi fans.
Yeah, Bon Jovi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Champagne slipping down the tree.
It is, it's lovely. Number 7, Forgot About Dre, Dr. Dre featuring Eminem. I know there's going to be a lot of people who know and love that song. I don't know it all.
I know it.
Do you?
Yeah, but I can't sing it because it's a massive rap. It's really fast.
It's a massive rap.
Yeah, massive rap.
I could do it.
Number 6, There You Go by Pink. Now, this is when Pink was first launching herself and they wanted her to go down the R&B route. So she was like, if you insist. That's what she said.
Right.
If you insist. But I'm not really into it. And she was more into the kind of like poppy rocky kind of vibe. So swiftly deviated from it.
Good. Number 5, Mary Mary with Shackles, brackets, Praise You. Now, Shirley from Creative.
Yes.
Shout out to Shirley from Creative, because when I used to work with Shirley from Creative, that song goes, just wanna praise you. When we had appraisals, we would sing, just wanna appraise you. It was funny. It was really funny in the office. We also did Bolero on our office chairs in the middle of the reception. That's the kind of crazy cool kids we were back in the day.
You'd probably break something if you did that now.
How dare you?
Okay, number 4, On the Beach by York. Not
On the Beach by York.
No, because there isn't a beach at
by
York,
York.
but that's what it was called. Yvonne.
Number 3, New Beginning / Bright Eyes by Stephen Gately. Another Boyzone. That's like Boyzone. Is it Boyzone or
Boyzone?
Boyzone.
Yes.
Boyzone.
Gone too soon, Stephen Gately.
They're obviously now trying to get their solo careers at this point, aren't they?
Yeah.
And Bright Eyes, I presume, is the cover of the... Oh, wow. That's a song that traumatised everybody.
Poor Stephen Gately.
Poor Stephen Gately. And dreadful treatment of the press.
Oh, my
Again,
God.
you know, absolutely appalling.
Well, absolutely. It's well known now. Can you imagine being said, okay, if you don't give us an interview and come out with us,
we'll
come out to us, we'll out you anyway.
Yeah.
So do you want to control it? Do you want to take ownership of it or not?
Yeah.
How fucking cruel is that?
I know. But what's quite interesting, and one of his legacies, is that all the research that was done, which was new because there'd never really been a boy band with an out gay member before, and the research showed that actually for female fans it wasn't a turn off, and in fact if anything it was a boost because it meant that no other woman could have them either. So actually having a gay band member stopped being the worst thing you could imagine, and being gay in a boy band didn't necessarily preclude you from having a career from this point on. So God bless him. What a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Okay, number 2, Reach, S Club 7.
Wow.
One of my little guilty pleasures.
Club 7, why not?
No. It's a bop. It's a happy song.
It's a happy
We're allowed to be
song.
happy in 2025 folks, just so you know.
Should we have a look at what was number 1?
Okay, are we going to be disappointed?
Probably.
Let's
have a little looky. Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
Sonique. It feels so good. I didn't realise I got to number 1. My friend was coming up with a pill when that came on in Pride about the year before, and that's when he fell in love with Sonique. So
I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm a good boy.
Right. That's right. Just ask Sister Sledge. Anyway.
So we are talking about Sex and the City from 2000, season 3, episode 1, where there's smoke. Shall I just give you a brief rundown about what Sex and the City was about?
Please do.
Just for anyone who's lived under a rock. So Sex and the City is an American romantic drama comedy television series created by Darren Star for HBO. It's based on the newspaper column and 1996 book by Candice Bushnell. It had various producers, screenwriters and directors, principally Michael Patrick King. It follows the lives of 4 female friends living in New York City. The streetwise newspaper columnist, Carrie Bradshaw, Sarah Jessica Parker. The sexually liberated public relations professional, Samantha Jones, played by Kim Cattrall. The more conservative art dealer, Charlotte York, played by Kristen Davis. And the cynical lawyer, Miranda Hobbs, played by Cynthia Nixon. The story addresses sex, relationships, friendships, and femininity. It became a cultural phenomenon and later inspired 2 movie spin-offs and the later spin-off and Just Like That. That's it in a nutshell.
Right.
There's loads to discuss throughout the seasons and everything. But what happens in this episode in particular?
In the season 3 premiere, the ladies attend the Firefighters Charity Calendar competition on Staten Island. Carrie is a judge and meets a charming politician called Bill Kelly, who later asks her out. Meanwhile, Samantha flirts with the firefighters and obviously ends up fucking one of them. Charlotte dreams of marrying a knight in shining armour, meets a knight in shining armour who turns out to be a wrong'un, and Miranda feels out of place among the party crowd, but manages to get her eyes fixed. And as her vision clears, she realises that her boyfriend Steve might just be a keeper.
Well,
Discuss.
So this episode is kind of story-wise geared around the fairy tale.
Yes.
Isn't it? Meeting Prince Charming.
Yes.
And what that means for each of the girls.
Yes. And also the disparity between fantasy and reality as well. I thought it was quite a clever episode. Can I just preface this at the very start by saying when I watched this again, I was really underwhelmed by it. And I was quite surprised how underwhelmed by it was, given how much I used to love this show. And I guess part of it is it's 25 years later. We're different people, aren't we? Back in those days, I was reading Heat magazine, flicking myself off to Pop Bitch, all this kind of stuff. So I had to really, for the first time in doing a year of this now, new viewers, go back and check out the old back catalogue. but really force my brain into a 2000 mindset in order to appreciate this, but also allow myself to check out the problematic elements. Sorry, personal journey. Quite a tricky one. I found this one, Dave. It was really weird, yeah, because I guess I wasn't bothered by Bridget Jones because I was a bit near about it anyway, but it was quite a leap actually, because I recognise that there is a lot of really good stuff in this. So I guess it was just trying to get myself over that kind of temporal bridge in order to appreciate this. So
well, I'm a bit different really, because I really enjoy Sex and the City whenever it's on. So actually I struggled to remember what happened in this episode because I actually watched a few more episodes after this.
You couldn't stop yourself.
I couldn't stop myself, and I always just delve back into it whenever it's on TV, when you're sat at night and there's nothing much to watch. It's always on some channel or other. And I just remember growing up with these women. I'm not sure if I look at it through a kind of nostalgic lens.
Sorry, bless you. When you say growing up, you were about 26 when this came out, weren't you? Yes. We're not talking, you were like 10.
No.
For new listeners / viewers.
How old was I in 2000? I was 26.
38. Oh. Yeah. I was growing up.
So I didn't grow with them, but I was a bit of a late starter in the world of Sex and the City.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I always have a nostalgic reaction to it whenever it's on.
Yeah.
I like some of the women better than others.
Yes.
But I think this episode in particular was quite evenly balanced as it told a story for each of them, didn't it? Based under this theory of there's somebody out there for everybody, you've just got to search for him. I did find it really interesting at the start. Now, it opens up on the Staten Island ferry. They're going to Staten Island for a Firemen calendar competition.
Which Carrie's a judge of.
And in her opening monologue, the voiceover, she says, New York City, home to 1 million exciting, eligible single men and 4 old and slightly cranky single women.
Oh, now I thought you said 4 cold and slightly cranky. I've highlighted that quote as well, and they do talk about how cold they are.
I thought she said old.
So, get off your high horse on that one.
I thought she said, I'm going with old.
No, because they then talk about how freezing cold it is on the ferry for ages. Charlotte goes, oh, I'm freezing at one point.
It could be cold and consider
old.
themselves old.
Yeah. I did highlight that quote, though. But just because it's setting out its stall, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a show about women looking for a relationship and boyfriends. And it's unashamedly about that. Yeah, you think
you've
they
just
were
poo-pooed
old.
my
I'm
whole
so sorry.
argument now.
I'm so sorry.
Can I just say, who was the one who had to get their ears cleaned out not so long ago?
And who now has surround sound, complete audio, like 5G hearing in my brain.
Can our new YouTube watchers please comment below? Have a little look and see if she says cold or old.
I wonder, speaking of YouTube comments and stuff, I wonder if that guy who gave us that 1-star review on their Apple podcast is going to watch this as well and give us another really shitty comment.
Did I tell you I was looking at the comments of another gay podcast?
Right.
And lo and behold, the same person with the same username.
Oh, God, really?
Slated another gay podcast,
Oh,
gave it a 1-star, say, can't stand these feminine queens. I'm thinking the man doth protest too much.
As I said, he's just masturbating furiously at the same time. We know that.
Can we just talk about the insane amount of Donna Summer in this episode?
Oh my God, I was living for how much Donna Summer was in this episode. It was fantastic. But doesn't she said Staten Island's like a small European country. The music's 20 years behind everybody else and you can smoke. And I was like, that's my kind of place.
Yeah, exactly. That's what was still going on in England at that time.
Yeah, for real.
So yeah, they get to this party, this bar
Yeah.
that this competition is being staged in. And there's cute, like, little snarky comments about what the hell we're doing in Staten Island. Obviously, it's considered to them that these cosmopolitan ladies of Manhattan kind of slumming it in Staten Island and having to drink these drinks, which are lethal. And Carrie gets into the swing of judging. And eyes meet across a crowded judging table with Bill, the politician, who's there. He's like one of the politicians for Staten Island. And they flirt to make eyes at each other, etc. But it becomes apparent that Carrie is stung from a relationship breakup from the notorious Big. If people watch the show, she being on, off, and she's very much off at the moment. So she tries to keep him at arm's length, doesn't she? And he gets a little bit stalkery towards her, I would say.
Yeah, he's just a very typical man, isn't he? He's pushing in and just not kind of letting it go. And yeah, The men in this episode are interesting, actually, because they're invariably shitty, apart from Steve, Miranda's boyfriend. Yes. Charlotte will go on a date with a guy who just turns to be really aggressive, Harvard.
He's the Prince Charming, isn't he? He rescued her from a lechy man in a bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
By punching him. She has already lamented that. She's going to be eternally single, and it's one of Charlotte's primary focuses to marry a man for status and for kids. So she's the one who's wanting to follow the kind of trad role.
Yes, very much. Yeah, and the type of guy she goes for is they wear espadrilles. That's all I'm saying.
He was hot.
Really? Did you
he was
think
a very
he was
kind
hot?
of Prince Charming. He was like Ivy League, floppy blonde haired, quite thick set. Sorry, just getting a bit.
Have you got your tenor on?
I have.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the men in this are a bit shitty, they're a bit crap. And you're right, the guy, this politician guy, he's a little bit stalkery, let's face it. So Carrie, as is obviously, she's the narrator of this show, she's the main character. And at some point, obviously the show's famous for her little voiceovers. I got to thinking, yada, yada, yada. And she addresses the crux of the episode when she says, women just want to be rescued. And this is something that a 30-year-old single woman is never supposed to say, that actually women are supposed to be independent and liberated and not need a man. But actually this episode is arguing that actually all women, all they want is a man. But this is contextualized within this show in the basis of this four women who have an incredibly strong relationship with each other, who are supportive of each other, who are women working together. And actually the show is all about women being stronger together. So I thought this episode was slightly not representative of the whole show, because by the end of the story, Carrie finds out she's stuck on Staten Island. She needs a knight in shining armor. And then the politician walks up in his car and rescues her and takes her away. But I guess that's not the ethos of this show, is it? It's all about women as a more powerful when they work together. Yeah.
I suppose the one that represents that the most is Miranda, isn't she? 'Cause she goes for an eye operation and she's really reluctant to accept Steve's help, but ultimately she does. And that's like the really sweet moment, isn't it?
And there's a whole thing about her waking up after this eye operation, not seeing properly, and then of course her vision kind of clears, and then Steve's next to her and she thinks, actually this one's okay.
Yeah. So she's had an epiphany, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. Well. Yeah. Let's talk about Samantha. What's your take on Samantha? Because Samantha she just wants to go because she just wants to fuck a fireman. She's got a fantasy of a fireman, and that's what she wants. So she ends up getting off with the fireman who's on stage doing a little dance. He then takes her later. They have another date later on. She obviously has a great shag with him. And then later on, another date, she goes to the fire station where he's like having loads of pizza with his pals, and they end up fucking again on a fire engine. What's her take on Samantha? Talk about Samantha Jones
as a whole. Samantha's just fantastic, I think. She is carefree in the sense that she is independent. She enjoys sex and is unapologetic about enjoying sex. Other people would see her as promiscuous, but she just sees it as, it's my life, I can do what I want with it. I enjoy sex with a lot of people, so I'm going to experience every single experience out there, basically. Manhattan is full of men, and I just think she just enjoys the thrill of the chase. She enjoys meeting different men. Like I say, she's unapologetic about it, and I just think she's brilliant. She's a great character, but I think she is quite rounded. She does have insecurities, especially in this episode where she meets a woman on the street, one of her friends, who say, you look fantastic. It's after a man has basically, she's sleeping with this guy and he says, oh, you look really good for an old woman, which obviously sends her a little bit skew with. And this woman tells her where to go and get her fat lifted from her bum into her cheeks. And so she does that. So she does have these insecurities about herself, etc., which a lot of women do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's not afraid to go for what she wants, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. God. And one of the things that Sex and the City is remembered for is this frank and unashamed discussion of female sexuality and female sexuality in older... It's Kim Cattrall. She looks fucking amazing, doesn't she? But what a kind of liberating show to watch at the time because of this frank discussion of sex. And there's a lot of stuff in this episode that she has conversations about her wetness, about her lover's dick, And what I loved was that Charlotte picks her up on just choosing a guy because he's a sexual fantasy,
Yes.
because he's a fireman. But it's not slut shaming at all between these women. It's just, she's more like, well, you shouldn't just be sleeping with someone just because it's your fantasy.
Yeah.
But I love the fact Samantha was like, why the hell not?
Yeah, she does say at that point, she says to Charlotte, your fantasy is to get some Ivy League guy, a stockbroker, and live in a gorgeous uptown apartment. That is your fantasy.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Absolutely.
I thought that was really great about Samantha is Charlotte came out with this thing about, I think it's wrong to sleep with a man just to fulfill a certain fantasy, and she was whip sharp, Samantha. She just came straight back and was like, don't double standard me kind of thing.
And I remember, do you remember at the time there was quite a lot of chatter about, is Samantha Jones just a gay man? Because the show's created and written mainly or partly by a gay man. And at the time, the question was, does any woman actually behave like Samantha Jones? And I got to thinking, I know, is that question redundant these days? And does the kind of sexual behaviour that women are able to partake in now without slut shaming, is that a thing now? Is it okay to do this? And I suspect that apart from certain elements of the media and the commentariat and
the
etc.,
the Andrew Tates of this world,
exactly, I think women are able to own their sexuality and sexual proclivities a lot more these days than they certainly were when this was. So she was just like, wow,
she was a breath of fresh air, wasn't she?
Breath of fresh air, yeah. Absolutely.
She was a breath of fresh air, wasn't she? I mean, I think if you look back at other TV shows of the time, there was very few women who were as sexually liberated as Samantha.
But as we've just said earlier, Ally McBeal, Bridget Jones are the kind of classic, they're all part of the same stable. Samantha's out there in terms of owning her sexuality and being unafraid to just go for it, experiment with it, do what she wants. Let's have this week.
Yeah. She's great, and I think just Kim Cattrall just is a huge part of the success of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And just carries it off with just total aplomb.
Yeah.
Not afraid to get near naked.
Absolutely.
As well. That's another part of this show that's worth discussing, is the nakedness of the women.
Yes.
Which it has been done before. This felt as though it wasn't for the male gaze. It wasn't for titillation.
Yeah.
It was more for the women's enjoyment of to see the women's enjoyment of what they were doing.
Yeah. And I suspect that if the show was made today, then you would be seeing just as much dick as you do see boobs. You don't ever see a front bottom in Sex and the City, do you?
I don't know about front bottoms.
Does your brain automatically black them out?
I'm not sure. Because to tell you the truth, I was always looking at the men.
Yeah, point made.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about Charlotte in this? Because she's, as you said, she's very much the trad wife, isn't she, Charlotte?
She's an aspiring trad wife. You know, she is a little bit more buttoned up, you would say. She does go through her moments of exploring sex and things. But I feel as though out of the four of them, she's the one who wants the fairy tale.
Yes, definitely.
Wants to be. And she says in this, women just want to be rescued. So that's more her attitude towards life compared to the others.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all interesting characters, but I think she really is. I think she represents the kind of repressed in all of us a little bit.
She's the conservative, isn't she?
Yes. Yeah. The twin set and pearls. We all like to think I think we're all a little bit like each of these characters. I'm a little bit of a Charlotte, but with Charlotte, it's a bit of a still waters run deep kind of thing. What she appears on the surface isn't necessarily what is underneath, whereas Samantha is more kind of what you get with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Charlotte can be a little bit self-righteous sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cosmopolitan quiz. Which of the four would you be?
I think I'm a bit of a Carrie, although I have to say Carrie can be quite annoying at times.
Totally annoying sometimes.
Really annoying, because I feel like they're all quite selfish. But it's a show about the four of them, about their desires and their wants, their needs. It's not necessarily about their relationships as such. I think I'm a little bit Carrie in, like, being a bit more carefree and laissez-faire about relationships and stuff. She can breeze in and out of them, apart from the big one, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably a little bit, although I hate to admit it, a bit Charlotte. Right. A little bit buttoned up, but underneath.
Still waters run deep.
Still waters run deep.
They're flowing underneath.
I know, they're gushing. Samantha is great, and I think that's what everybody aspires to be. I think my own reticence and my own insecurity will probably hold me back from being a complete Samantha. But I do admire Samantha. She's the one I admire the most out of all of them. But I'm probably a little bit more of a Charlotte, if truth be told. Okay, now I'm going to ask the question. What about you?
Miranda.
I think our YouTube viewers have got a proper handle on you by now, and our gazers of old know exactly who you'd be like.
Yeah, Samantha obviously in it. Yeah, she's a spirit animal.
Yeah.
We probably got very similar journals.
You would make Samantha blush.
Yeah,
you would make Samantha clutch her pearls.
Yeah, I would. She'd be clutching her pearls, wouldn't she? Sorry, Sam. Get over it, bitch. Now, I haven't got anything more nice to say about the episode, but I have got a few problematic elements I'd like to discuss, but not just of this episode, of the series as a whole. So have you got anything else you want to bring up about this particular episode?
Not really. I really liked how they tied the story up about the fairy tale element of it.
Yeah.
You know,
It was clever.
Down to the fact of Carrie losing her shoe at midnight to get the midnight ferry.
Yeah.
You already mentioned Miranda waking up and seeing her Prince Charming, as in Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Charlotte realising that who she thought was Prince Charming wasn't. Yeah. And Charlotte having sex with a fireman. Yes. Basically.
Samantha.
That was I say Charlotte.
Having sex with a fireman, yeah.
Samantha having sex. So I really like the story element of it. I love the costumes, the outfits. They're just, that is one thing about Sex and the City that was always on point. Even though a little bit outlandish, all the women were always immaculately turned out. Yeah. Which was great. And I must say, I don't know if you know what the story is with Carrie and the politician going forward.
Isn't the one that he wants her to piss on him?
That's the one.
Is that the one? Yeah. She has a negotiation with him about the pissing on him. And that story is often highlighted about how it shows that the idea of consensual sex was often approached in Sex and the City. Absolutely. But one of the things the show has been criticised for is the moments that hint at the old kind of non-consensual sex acts between men and women, which were often passed off as normalised. So Charlotte, in one episode, she says she's never going to date a guy again after he raped her face. And do you remember Berger? The character Berger. There's a scene where Carrie has sex with him and she's clearly uncomfortable in it and is not a willing party to this. So there's a lot of elements to it which are, on the whole, it's a really great show, but there are certainly some aspects of an uneven, unequal sexual kind of relationship, like the politician in this one. This is clearly the more powerful and is clearly expecting just to be able to get his way with Carrie. Sarah Jessica Parker recently said that, yes, the show in lots of ways hasn't stood up if you look in light of Me Too movements and stuff. And she completely is on board with how some people might be triggered by some of the storylines and some of the language that was used in these storylines. Yeah, that's one little problematic element that was generally not the series, but not necessarily this episode. No.
It makes me wonder, I got to thinking, would this be made today? I know there is there's a, what's it called?
As You Like It.
As You Like It. And Just Like That, which I subject myself to on occasion, but it's a real trudge, and it's a completely different show to what Sex and the City was, minus Samantha, obviously, for the reason we all know about. But I just wonder how public attitudes and tastes have changed since Sex and the City. It feels as though there's a kind of like a resurging conservatism going on in the world in general. It was particularly in the United States and in the UK. And I wonder how these women would be viewed now if exactly the same show was made and put out today. I don't know what the answer is, but I just feel as though, like I say, there's like a newfound conservatism, even though we've got a Labour government in power here and the Conservatives are a different story. But I don't know if you can feel it in the air that things are going the other way now.
It's just the rise on social media, isn't it, of those conservative male voices. But Sarah Jessica Parker, she said she was at the Wall Street Journal's Future of Everything Festival about 4 years ago and says it would, to answer your question about could you get away with it could you make it these days, she said, I think it would be a different show nowadays. I think Carrie Bradshaw is very much a product of her generation, and I think her conversations about sexual politics and intimacy spoke to the years years.
Yes.
Which is...
But I think that's really apt, actually. I think that's really to the point there. It felt as though the 90s and the 2000s in general were quite a liberated time for a lot of people. Like we talked about the repeal of Section 28 and all that kind of thing for gay men and women. And it felt as though there was like a hope and a positivity in the world, particularly in Britain anyway, that from my experience was like anything goes. As long as you don't hurt people, you can basically do what you want. Everyone was pretty open-minded, whereas I feel like these days, going into the 2020s, I don't know if it's anything to do with COVID or the recession or what it is, the rise of social media probably, that everyone's more judgy now about things.
Yeah. More quick to jump to conclusions, more black and white thinking.
Well, everyone's got an opinion. You can always give your opinion loud and clear.
Yeah. It's almost like two old puffs doing a podcast, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're clinging on to the 1990s by our fingernails. Sexually liberated.
Scratching down the wall. It's also a very white show, isn't it? Like Friends was. It was the convention of the time. We can criticise it, but that's how it was at the time. They've tried to redress that, I understand, in the new series, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's a lot more diverse these days.
Yeah. Friends was white. This is white. We're in one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world, but it's very white. But hey, that was the convention. I don't find the series as a whole problematic. It was just for me how underwhelmed I found it. But actually watching it 25 years old, I'm a different person.
Yes. I think probably the taste got a bit more sophisticated. It can be a little bit cliched at times, have clunky dialogue at times, and some of the scenarios, some of the behaviours of the characters chop and change from episode to episode to fit the story a lot of the time. I just think the show's got a real charm to it.
Yeah. And what's great is seeing all those different kind of female experiences on screen. If I remember rightly, they went through all kinds of stuff. All the 4 different characters went all through the ringer, put through in various ways, but it was the support of each other, which was the thing that...
They rarely fell out. They did. There was one massive falling out between Miranda and Carrie. And then what I thought was really interesting about the series running forward was Charlotte's journey, really, because she felt as though she found her Prince Charming in the Kyle MacLachlan character and very quickly realised that he, had an overbearing mother and he was impotent. She got the apartment, she got the man, she got everything she wished for, and then it all quickly... And then ultimately she found another guy. So I thought that her journey was really interesting. And I just felt there was character development over the series. Miranda went with Steve and then had to look after his ageing and ailing, frail mother. Samantha got breast cancer, so there was that whole journey for her. I feel like the only one that was a little bit underused, not underused because she was the main protagonist of the show, Carrie, but she was the one whose journey I just didn't really get. It was a bit underdeveloped and she always succumbed to this guy, and I just wondered is that the overall message of this show, that there's the ultimate guy for you out there, but if he treats you like shit, you've just got to ride it.
I mean, that was the thing about how it ended, that she goes back to big, and that's supposed to be the big fairy tale ending, but actually this is a show about women who are not about that whole kind of thing, and it was just a bit...
We'd all like to think that if there was a Mr. Big in our life who treated us like absolute shit, we'd just be like, fuck you, see you later. But you never know. The heart wants what the heart wants, doesn't it? And
more often than not, we end up as Tammy Wynette, don't we? Let's face it.
No, we don't. We don't all. Oh, darling, have we taken a turn? Are we all right? Listen, we've got a little bit left.
Oh, go on. Pour it.
There you go. I didn't want us to end on a sour note. Oh, I've given you too much there. I've not left anything for myself.
You haven't given me too much, darling.
I've just got a little dribble. Story of my life.
Do you want me to pour you some in there?
No, it's fine.
Good.
Thank you. I'm okay.
Thank God. Do you want getting any? I haven't got any more notes on Sex and the City, actually.
I don't have any more notes on Sex and the City, but I have to say I've really enjoyed
looking at me.
Normally we sat side by side and I can look away.
Yeah.
Now I've actually managed to chain myself to this. What have I done?
I know. I've quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what? It's being able to see your beautiful face.
Darling.
Cheers, darling. There's time on YouTube. I hope you like it.
We can't forget our gazers, though.
No, we can't. Gazers
got us to where we are now.
They adore us.
Yeah, and for all our YouTubers out there, please do give us a follow, hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
To all our gazers on our podcast journey, please follow us, because we should add that we are a independent podcast and we do everything ourselves. It doesn't show, does it? Because it's like very professional. but we do everything ourselves, so it'd be great for you to subscribe to us. Anyway, back to Sex and the City very briefly.
So, what would you rate this out of 10?
I would rate it for nostalgic purposes. I can't slight my girls.
I can't slight my girls. Prime of Miss Gino Brody episode.
Yes, we've got one on that too. I would give it 8 Staten Island iced teas out of 10.
Okay. I enjoyed it. After getting my brain back into 2000, I enjoyed it much more. But I actually thought it was a solid piece of telly. 8 Manolo Blahniks out of 10 for me. It was good.
Very good.
So, that's Sex and the City done.
Bye-bye, girl.
What are we looking at next week?
Well, next week we're saying goodbye, girls, and we're saying hello, boys.
Oh, hello.
Don't get too excited. No, not those kind of boys.
Oh.
We're going... What year is it? 1982, and we're going back to watch an episode of the comedy classic from the UK, The Young Ones.
The Young Ones.
Oh.
The Young Ones. Ooh, never be afraid. Ooh, the Young Ones. How
So
exciting is
yes, we're going to watch the antics of what they're called. Rick,
Vivian,
Rick,
Neil, and Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a bit like a mirror image of Sex and the City, actually.
It
We've done that
is.
unwittingly, don't we?
I know. No, we did it on purpose, really.
Yeah, we do, that's right.
Yeah.
All designed.
Yeah. But yes, The Young Ones.
Yeah, we're going to be watching an episode, because I don't know, it's a surprise, but I'm just guessing. We might be watching an episode called Bambi, if you want to watch it. It's on YouTube. Yeah, look forward to that.
Absolutely. This is the thing about this podcast. We jump in our Teddy TARDIS each week.
Yes.
And we jump around to different years.
Jump around.
Different genres.
Yeah.
So anything can happen. We could be delving into a 80s blockbuster from the USA,
Yes.
and then we could be mining a kind of 1960 black and white classic from the UK.
Yeah.
We jump backwards and forwards all the time, so there's something for everybody.
Something for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But mainly us.
Yeah, mainly us. So until then, Dave, well, I'm off to the fire station just to see if I can hang around a Greasy Pearl for a couple of hours. What are you up to?
I'm just gonna sit on my front step, smoke a cigarette, and just wait for Mr. Big to come rolling by.
Typical Friday night, darling.
Yeah, absolutely. For you it is, anyway.
Thank you so much, everybody. We are the Problematic Gays. If you liked what we said, please follow, subscribe, all that stuff, because we are an independent podcaster, and it really helps, doesn't it?
It really does help spread the word of the Problematic Gays. So until next week.
Au reservoir.
Au reservoir.